Hello and welcome if you can hear me. We'll get started about 3:02 to give people time to get in and settle. Hello and welcome. If you're just joining, I'm going to wait until about 3:02 to make sure we have everyone in and settled, and I'll need to keep an eye on the waiting room, just so you know if I pause.
I'm sorry, who's sponsoring the meeting? I saw the link and my grandson's in the school, so.
Oh, so this is for the Virtual Academy Elementary at Royal Oak, and I am the coordinator that's sponsoring this. It's an informational session about the Virtual Academy option for elementary students.
Right, I just didn't know who you were.
Oh, yes, and I'm going to introduce myself more in just a moment. Not the school board, it's not administrators. Just
Okay.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, you said for elementary, is there going to be something like this for the middle school?
Not that I'm aware of. So sorry, I don't have information on that. And it looks like they do need to do different ones for different levels.
Yeah.
And that's something I can certainly pass on after this meeting. So one of the very first announcements I'm going to make is that if you're here for middle school or high school, that will not be addressed right now. I am only for elementary, so I couldn't even help you.
With who to talk to.
Correct. So Lisa Shannon is at the board office. She is my counterpart for elementary. I don't know if it's the administrators. I'm sorry, I'm not able to.
Okay, that's okay. Thank you very much.
That is needed.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. Oh, I'm sorry if everyone heard that. Okay. Okay, I'm going to get started, seeing that it's 3:02. And like I said, I'm going to keep an eye on the waiting room to try to admit people as best I can while presenting. Okay, so first announcement is this is for elementary Royal Oak Virtual Academy only, just elementary. Middle school and high school will not be addressed during this informational session, and we are recording, so just so you're aware of that. Okay, just trying to get everyone in. Actually, I'm going to see if I'm able to, well, we're required to have a waiting room. So let me see if I can turn that off because we are adults. Oh, yep, there we go. Okay, sorry about that. Welcome. If you had a chance to look at the presentation before the last 10 minutes, I've updated it a bit. I'm trying to be responsive to some of the things that I know our families are wondering. So I have updated it and I will be presenting it through my screen. I hope you're able to see that in present mode. If someone on video could just nod their head, if you can see that, please. Okay, thank you. So I am, oh, it's not letting me, there we go. So my name is Kara Dawn. I've been in the district about 19 years. I taught in a previous district for a couple years before that. I've mostly taught in upper L classrooms for 20 years of my career at Whittier and at Keller. 3 years ago, I transitioned to still at Keller, but I am our IB coordinator, as we're the IB school, the IB elementary in the district right now. And I'm also an RTI coordinator, which means I work with small groups of children in various subjects. So I joined the VA team the first week of school. I was asked to join as a way to, every elementary has some type of coordinator in their building. So I was brought on board to be that person for the VA. So I am a colleague with my teachers. I am not an administrator. I am my office right now. I'm at Keller. We have 4 VA teachers, myself as the coordinator, and the supervisor who is at the board office is Lisa Shannon. And I have my contact information at the end of this slideshow that I will make a point to share with you. So I'd like to start by asking that if you would hold your questions till the end, please. This was meant to be an informational session, and I'm certainly happy to answer any questions that I can. And at the end, we'll also have a document for any unanswered questions that I'm not able to answer that we will share with you. And you can expect to have some answers to those by the end of the day on Wednesday. And I'll show you where that will be housed. So I wanted to start by acknowledging this is a very tough decision for every single family. It's very personal. It's just extremely tough decision, and we are aware of that, and especially if you've maybe been coming from a different type of, if you've done our remote, what we've termed our remote teaching. The terms remote and virtual can be used synonymously. In the case of so far this year, our virtual academy has been the 95% online self-paced program. The remote program, which those have been the terms that have been used, have been 4 days a week with about 3 times kids are able to see their teachers live. So we are talking about the virtual academy where kids will not be returning face-to-face at all. If you choose to switch to that program, we're asking for a commitment through January 29th, of course, pending what's going on in the world then. If you were switching from the remote program to the virtual, they would be enrolled in the virtual academy with their grade level peers with a new virtual academy teacher. They will, however, stay on the roster of the teacher that they're currently on. So if we do return face-to-face, they would still have a spot in that classroom with that teacher that they have probably so far built a relationship with through the remote avenue. I'm just going to double check the waiting room real quick. Okay. So if your child is, so actually I'm going to assume that if you're tuned in, you're probably trying to make the decision between the remote, the live lessons with the teacher several times, to the virtual. If that's not the case, please feel free to let me know. But if you are using remote right now, the platform that you're using is Canvas. That is also the technology platform that's used for the virtual academy. The difference is teachers are not uploading the lessons that they have created. The lessons are coming from a third party, which is named Accelerate. And those lessons and modules are already built and created, and they are pushed out from their VA teachers in a weekly format. So the synchronous or the live sessions that a VA student would have is a once a week 30-minute class meeting that is scheduled at the same time each week, so families are aware. It is also recorded. If you're not able to attend, you'll get a recording of it. The purpose of this class meeting is to connect with families, do some type of social, emotional connection, maybe a read aloud, maybe just talk about the week. It's not delivering content or lessons. New to the second marking period of the virtual academy is that the virtual academy students will have the option of participating in 4 specials on Friday mornings. They would be back-to-back 25-minute sessions of the 4 specials that are typically offered in a typical school year. And that would be on Friday mornings again for a total of about 100 minutes for those 4 specials. That is not something our current VA students are doing. That would be starting the week of November 9th, second marking period. By doing that, at the end of the first semester, the first 2 marking periods, all students, whether they were remote or VA, will have had exposure to all 4 of our specials. Again, that's optional and families choose. What you can expect from your Royal Oak VA teacher. Right now, we have 4, and they are doing multiple grades. So each teacher is covering 2 grades. They are experienced teachers from the district, that have been in the district. They provide the 1 30-minute class meeting per week. They are responsible for completing the Royal Oak report card. And then they are available for check-in, encouragement, support. Some have set office hours, others are just available, scheduled as needed. Their job is to monitor the timeline and work completion, notice if kids are having trouble, notice if kids might need a little extra encouragement or support. And they are doing district assessments, just like our remote teachers, which are the teachers that are teaching 4 days a week, more live teaching 4 days a week. So some of our testing that has been done recently, the VA students are participating in as well. Scheduling. So again, we wanted to be very responsive to when the virtual academy was first introduced. We know a lot more now than we did 6 or 7 weeks ago. And so we're happy to share that information. We're so thankful to the families, the VA families that have been with us through the bumps in the beginning. They've been incredibly patient and understanding. When typically, if we were going to adopt a new program like Canvas or this Accelerate program, it would typically take 12 to 18 month pilot and review process, which we, as you know, we did in a much shorter amount of time. And so there were bumps and hiccups that came along with it. We understand that. We have used what we've learned thus far about the program, as well as gathering parent questions and feedback from present VA families, as well as families that need the information to make their decision, so that hopefully we are in a much better place to educate you about the difference between these 2 programs. And I also wanted to acknowledge, before these meeting times like today at 3 o'clock and the tomorrow meeting times are not particularly conducive to a typical working parent schedule. And we realize that. These were scheduled before the board meeting of last week, and we understand now there's probably a lot more interest in the VA in a more timely fashion. So if further sessions like this are needed at different hours, we're open to that, and we'll certainly do so. This is recorded, as I said, and it will be shared on the website as soon as we can get it up today. So the scheduling of the VA is flexible. It's meant to accommodate what families need. The word learning coaches I wanted to add because that is a word that is used from Accelerate, which is the program that gives the content. And the learning coach is the identified family member who's helping. So the learning coach is not the VA teacher. The learning coach could be grandma or a neighbor next door, or it could be the parent, or it could be, the Salvation Army is doing some work. So the learning coach is the person supporting the child in their learning the most. So that schedule is up to the person who's helping them the most. So here's just an overview of some information to help with scheduling, and we want families to make it work for them. We have some sample schedules. In the beginning, we were really asked for that. People who are not familiar with, how a school day might run in elementary school some people wanted it to look very much like that for their child. Others wanted more flexibility on due dates and things. So I have some information about that for you. This is an overview of the minutes per day that each subject area takes. Now, of course, in the DK and K, it's on the lower end. In the upper L, it's on the upper end, and it's particular to your child. Your child may be a quicker learner, or your child may need more time in one subject over the other. But these are nice general guidelines. And because it's given per day, does not mean it has to be done per day. So in your family, you might decide on Mondays, we want to do all of our math. You're welcome to do that. All of the work is typically typically due in 1 week. So the teachers tomorrow will speak specifically to, if a module is pushed out on a Sunday, it's probably due like the following a week and a day later or so. And that is flexible as well. If there's an issue, if something came up, you can communicate with your VA teacher. There's not a penalty for late work. However, we are encouraging families to keep on track so that you don't get buried and way, way, way behind. So if you are a family that wants to look at things by the day, these are some guidelines. If you are a family that wanted to plan just things out by the week, these are some guidelines of about how much time each subject would take per week. This is, again, we had some families who wanted a kind of a traditional, what would this look like in school? My child did really well with that structure. So we shared this as something that may or may not work for some families. This could be, like I said, this could be a different way a family looks at it. Like I said, because language arts and math are the heavier have a heavier time commitment. Maybe on Wednesday you want to finish your math and do the social studies. Maybe you want to do all of your work on Saturday and Sunday. Maybe you want to work 1 hour on the busiest day of your family's week and 3 hours on other days. So if you wanted to break it up like that, this hourly estimate would be a good way to help your family decide. So tomorrow, I will be hosting another informational session with each of the teachers for these grade levels. And the intent of that is for them to give some more content-specific information, as well as just share a little bit about the tips and tricks they may have learned from their families thus far. we're in the process of putting together a list of families that would be happy to be maybe an ambassador of the program, or just another family you can contact to reach out and talk to. We're putting that together by grade level, and I hope to have that near the end of the time of this session tomorrow. So again, we're trying to be very responsive to the needs that people have asked for, and this is the way we're trying to do things kind of in a rushed, in a quicker fashion, so that people can have time to make a decision that fits their family. As of this moment, the deadline is Friday the 16th. That's why I was checking to see if there's any updates on that, which I don't have an update on that. If there is an extension or any kind of an update. This is my email and contact information. I'm happy to talk with anyone at any time about, again, the information about the VA. I am not a person to answer for you why we're doing this or why we're doing that. I'm happy to point you in the direction if there's someone I can point you to, but other than that, I'm here to help you understand the difference between remote and virtual. So with that being said, this is a document Mrs. Shannon made that updated the virtual academy information for the second marking period. And this is elementary specific. Everything I believe I covered most everything in here, but this will also be available on the website later today, just a different format. I will also be sharing a link to this in our chat in just a minute. So if there's a question that doesn't get answered, you can put it here. If you would like your information shared so someone can reach out to you personally via email or phone call, feel free to put it. That is not required, and that will be taken off before we post this to the website late in the day on Wednesday. Okay, so let me just share this in the chat and make sure the sharing rights are correct, and then I'm happy to open it up for questions. Okay, and I have not had a chance to peek at the chat yet. If these are questions you'd like to ask, feel free. Or actually, I'll let people raise your hand or unmute if you have a question, and then I will kind of walk through the chat and answer when I'm able to at this time.
So we pick the VA, how much testing would we expect at the start of it to be able to place our children properly within the program? Are they going to be like doing weeks of testing?
Good question. No, because they will use the testing that they've been doing. I assume your child is coming from the remote program. The testing they've already done, that is shared with our VA teachers. So they would just pick up and just start. In fact, we have asked VA teachers to have a class meeting on Monday the 9th. Several of them don't have their meetings until like Tuesday or Wednesday of that week. We've asked them to schedule 2 meetings that week, their regular time and kind of a kickoff welcome to the new families on Monday the 9th.
What if your child doesn't participate in the NWEA testing at their school?
Then I would assume then we would just carry on without that information.
And then as they're using the program, they're initially put on a level does the program just then, these are the sequential things, or is it going to adjust to what your child is putting in?
Right, so it's not computer adaptive like our NWEA test, for example, where if you answer a question right, it gets harder. And I'm going to let the teachers speak a little more to that piece tomorrow. I'll make sure they're prepared for that question. In terms of what we call an education differentiation, a child that might need things simplified or a child that might need things challenged. It is not embedded in the program to do that, but I'm going to ask the teachers to speak to that more grade level wise tomorrow.
There are a lot of questions about enrollment, and I guess basically, what if we change our mind, or if the state and district decides to go back, right? Can we switch back to our remote teacher and classroom if suddenly the district in a month decides to go back to fully, to remote instead of the hybrid? What if we're in the hybrid and we personally don't like it and want to switch to virtual? What if we're virtual and don't like it and want to switch back to the hybrid? Like, what flexibility there, and how does that work?
Let me get final confirmation on that, and we'll put it in writing as well. And I don't want to speak without knowing the full answer, but it's been very fluid up to this point. We have had families go both ways. And I imagine because even up till the Sunday the 8th, the state could change. So that's a great question, and let me kind of dial down on that a little bit and get back with that perhaps tomorrow, or for sure on the new document.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have a little bit of a question to piggyback off what Wendy just stated, because I was actually told in the beginning I didn't have a choice to switch if I wasn't comfortable with the VA. I was told that if I picked the VA, my child would have to stick with that until next year, regardless of what the circumstances were. And because I do have underlying health conditions, unfortunately, I was basically forced to pick the VA, but now since this has come up and a lot of parents are not happy about the hybrid and so forth, now it's like, okay, well, now we have these options. And so I just, would really like a little bit more clarification on that, because if it's going to be, available to one, it should be available to all either way. It has to be versatile.
Yes. So, yes, I will get clarification on that and see how exactly fluid, like on the night of the 8th, can you change your mind? I will put together some scenarios and try to get a really as best of an answer that I can.
If there, right now I'm looking, there's 94 participants in this meeting, and just approximating, there's roughly probably 200, 250 students in K through 2. So that's about, a third of each of the grade levels. So is there any talks of, if it's a whole class size worth of students, possibly allowing these children to continue with what is normal for them now versus taking them away from their adjustment and then, forcing them onto this, platform, which, I think we both, Ms. Daunt, as an educator, can agree that it's not developmentally appropriate for K through 2, but, given the fact that these parents are having to choose between keeping their family safe versus, what's developmentally appropriate for their child. There has been several districts in the surrounding area in Oakland County that are kind of pulling a teacher out of the classroom to accommodate the amount of virtual students that have went back to this hybrid model. I just would strongly feel like if you have a third of the population, I would hope, I know that there's been tons of parents even requesting this or suggesting this that I've been hearing of from this new Facebook group that has just opened up about the concerns with this remote or virtual, hybrid plan. So, I mean, I guess I know I'm kind of like talking in circles, but basically I think that a lot of parents would be happy if Royal Oak would, if there's enough students from each building, each grade level, allow for a whole class to retain their normalcy instead of being pushed onto this online platform, which kind of piggybacks off of what Wendy says. When the school has to quarantine, 93 of your students could be getting a better education with, the remote color teacher versus isolation on this Accelerate program.
Okay, so I understand your question completely. I just want to reiterate that I do not have the answers to that. And this is meant as an informational session about the VA so that you have an understanding of the difference between the two programs. And those other issues are not something that I'm even equipped to address. I do understand your question though, I very much do.
I mean, being the coordinator, I understand that the purpose of this, call is not that, but I'm just curious, being the coordinator, if you look even on the chat, I'm not the only person who said that, is it possible for you to communicate that, that is a concern?
Certainly.
Thank
Certainly
you.
I will, yes. And again, I haven't peeked at the chat yet, but yes, I will certainly pass that along.
Is there a way to make this more accessible? Like I had to hustle to find the password for this. I'm wondering if this information and the link for the workshops tomorrow can actually just be put on the district's homepage. I mean, like the person that just spoke, you have so many people here. And I think that, it's just really frustrating because on the district homepage, all that is there for the virtual academy is a link to the form without any information, without a link to the Zoom call. I'm not sure why there has to be a password to the Zoom call, but it would be nice to be able to, tomorrow, for those of us who want to hear from the teachers and ask teachers directly, to actually be able to quickly find that information by going to the district homepage.
That's a great point. I can ask.
Kara, did the link to the forum for more questions actually get shared? I'm not able to see it.
I believe I did. Can anyone else?
I don't see it.
I did have one question, mainly.
I'm sorry. It says to everyone in the waiting room. I'm sorry. Let me change to everyone.
Where do we go to find, if we're not able to watch tomorrow, where do we go to find the recording?
It will be on the district web page. I will request on the page, and I will request that it's under the virtual academy piece. I'll try to make it as few clicks as needed to get there. I will ask that. I don't control that. In fact, I don't even know who does, but I know where I send it to. I will put those requests in.
Hey, Kara, the document you just shared requires access with a Royal Oak email.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me change that. I thought I did, but let me change it again.
Oh, sorry.
In effect,
Okay, Kara, I'm wondering, currently Royal Oak is only committing to offer the VA through January 28th. At what point can we expect to know that it will continue longer than that, or whether we'll have to, find a charter school or something to keep our kids virtual?
Great question. And sorry, one moment. I'm just trying to reshare this.
It seems to be working now.
Someone can, okay.
I wanted to piggyback on that question for 1 second because it raises my question as well. So if you had to make an alternative choice and take your kid out of the Royal Oak Virtual Academy or in person, can your kid come back in when there's a vaccine or whatever is safe for you? Will you keep your spot or will you lose it permanently? And who would answer? I'm not sure who would answer that.
I can speak to it within the district. So if you were doing remote, came to Royal Oak Virtual Academy, things changed in your family, you wanted to return to the classroom where your child has been doing the remote learning, that place is held. If your question is, if you leave Royal Oak Schools, go do something, things change and you want to come back to Royal Oak Schools, I do not know the answer to that.
Yeah, that's the second one is.
I will try to, yes, try to find out. I'm going to
Kara,
look through the chat.
Kara, can you you made it perfectly clear that the curriculum that's being presented to the children is not in fact developed by the Royal Oak teachers. How has it been vetted, and how can we see samples of it?
Good question.
Because if you go to Accelerate, all you can get is college level stuff.
Oh, I will share a link to the family, I will share a link so that you can see some sample lessons from all grade levels and some sample, it's not even sample, it can be as specific as you want up to just a big overview of subject area. So that does exist, and I will make sure you get a link to that.
Thank you. And can they also address how the program was vetted? And the reason I ask is that there were some significant concerns with particularly equity and diversity in the Seesaw program in some of the lower grades last spring that were in fact canned programs and were not vetted.
I can tell you the vetting part that I am aware of. So we had several, an administrative team at the board office went through the vetting process, and one of the major factors was that this was, I don't want to use the wrong word, but Oakland, there are several other districts in Oakland County that have used this and have been successful. Oxford has used this for several years, I'm not sure how many. Clawson and Ferndale have come on board. They were like a week ahead of us, I think. And again, these numbers are not exact. This is what I know from asking questions just like you're asking. So because of that, and the short amount of time to decide, because other Oakland County schools had been successful with this program, that was one of the major decision-making factors.
Kara,
Okay.
I have a question.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Kara, are there any kids with IEPs in the virtual academy? And if so, how are they getting their IEP services delivered?
Great question. So let me share my screen.
Yeah, I can kind of help you a little bit with that too, because I have a kid that has an IEP, and I had one done, and we all did a virtual meeting like we're doing now. It's a little bit more dense, like condemned, so it's not as lengthy as you would be like in face-to-face setting, but they still go over everything. Some things are changed a little bit because it is virtual. But they go over everything in detail, just like they did in person. So I'm sorry, Kara, I just wanted to.
No problem.
I'm sorry, my question's more in reference to, for example, if they qualify for direct OT or speech services, how are they getting those services through Virtual Academy?
Well, I can answer that for you too. I can help with Kara with that as well. So my child does receive OT. He receives speech therapy, and he also receives assistance from a para as well. I have it all set up on the schedule, and his meetings are set up, daily, and he attends them just like he would at school. But it's virtual, on a video. But I'm sorry, I won't say anything else.
No problem. Thank you. Your experience helps because I'm learning as well. And so on this new document that I wanted to share it, they do remain virtual. So again, that transition of, I know we have our special ed students, some of them coming in for their ancillary services now.
Right. But I'm about to lay this shit.
So you're saying that they're able to come into the building to get their ancillary services, but still remain in the virtual academy? Is that what I'm hearing?
No. So right now, and I'm going off of this document, right now our remote students are coming in for some of their ancillary services. According to this document that's specific to elementary, it says their special ed services will remain virtual.
I have a question about that too. I have DK student right now. We're doing the other half, like for right now, and I was wondering, why is it that the students who are going to be choosing distance learning are the parents? Why can't they get the same OTPT and speech services as the other kids are going to be getting in school? Because I would really like my son to go back, continue to get the same like quality lessons instead of online. I mean, speech, yeah, is easy, but OT and PT aren't.
I agree, especially with OT.
Yeah.
Again,
So I would like to know if there is a way that they can do that. It would be really nice.
I will pass that along as a question, and if you can add it to that document, that would be great. If not, I have it written down to ask.
Yeah, and I would like to
apologize
know.
if your question starts with why. I probably can't answer it, and I do understand the frustration with that. And I'm a parent. I'm a grandparent. I went through Royal Oak schools. Please know I understand. I'm completely empathetic with all of this, and am going to do the very best I can to get the answers to these questions.
I would like to know, it said that if your child had social work services, that they would still see a social worker, but will they see the social worker that they saw at their neighborhood school?
I'm sorry, the end of that question, will they see the social worker?
At their neighborhood school that they're currently seeing.
Oh, even if it's virtual, will it be the same social worker?
Correct.
Good question. I will ask.
Kara, I just wanted to circle back around. I had asked about the commitment through the school from through January 28th. Did you have an answer on that? Or was that something we have to wait on to understand?
Thank you for coming back to that. I believe if there's enough interest,
Charlotte,
it will continue on for the second semester, but I need to verify.
are you done? Charlotte.
I
have a question, please.
Chat.
Hello, hi. My name is Rio. My daughter is in 6th grade, and I just got to this meeting, and I'm here on behalf of a lot of parents that are on the thread on Facebook.
Okay.
Couple clarifications, please. Is this meeting for all grades, or is this just from K through 5?
From DK through 5.
Okay, so this meeting here does not pertain to the middle school students, correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Correct.
And the virtual academy for the middle school, that situation is completely different from this, correct?
Correct.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
I have a question, if I may. Thank you for answering all our questions, Kara.
Thank you. I'm trying.
The presentation, I came on a little late. I'm just curious for VA if all material is computer-based, or are there printed material and workbooks and worksheets that we would have access to?
Good question. Yes, so there are some paper-based activities and worksheets. Printables are available for the school to print for you and you to pick up. Some families have opted just to print as they go, what they feel is needed.
Okay, thank you.
I see one. I'm going to try to buzz through a couple questions in the chat because it's probably questions many of you have. How many students is each teacher responsible for? Right now, each teacher has an average of 40-ish students. However, I would remind you that it's not like please do not picture a classroom with 40 students and one teacher. The only time they are all together in that setting is during the class meeting part. So it's not like a teacher is delivering curriculum to 40 students. They are doing social emotional lessons, read alouds, talking. And actually that is, class meetings are, because each teacher has 2 grade levels, it's an average of half of that. So they are working with about 20 students in 1 grade level at a time for class meetings. And then they support, the office hours or the support time is one-on-one.
So to add to that, For students, if we've been in the remote and we opt for Virtual Academy, will the new kids joining Virtual Academy be assigned to an existing group, like a teacher assignment, or would there be new teachers assigned and all the new kids would be in a separate group?
Good question. So that's one of the reasons for the deadline, is that for staffing needs, we would need to see how many people are interested, how many people are committing, to see what we would need to do with staffing.
Well, then I think it also leads to the question of what if, we make decisions at the last minute? We are uncomfortable, or we're in the hybrid, and then we feel uncomfortable, and then we back out. Like, how are they going to handle that? That's all part of the same kind of questions, right?
Correct. And I'm going to try to really dial into that answer by the end of the day, Wednesday.
So I have one other question too. So, right now my children are in the remote, but if we switch to virtual and then you switch back to remote, like, it's kind of seeming like the content isn't the same, and it would be hard for the kids to go from one to the other and then back again, because it's there. Am I wrong in saying that the content isn't following the same structure?
So the content is another great question. The content is based on core standards, which is what we use in Royal Oak. And the content for science is using national, what's called Next Gen standards, which is what we use in Royal Oak. Their social studies, they follow the national standards. So it's a little bit different. So the actual content is based on the same standards. The sequencing and how the order it's delivered may not be. And that's very specific almost to the school and the grade that they're coming from. And we're working with the VA teachers to, we've asked them to kind of schedule out where, of course they will end a module right before, because it's the end of a marking period, and to tell us where they might be, where they expect their families to be starting fresh on November 9th, so that they're aware, that the teachers are aware, and perhaps they can do some collaboration with other teachers in the district about where they left off. That part we're very much working on.
Yeah, that part I can feel.
And the content, so if they're a third grader, their content is the same. So but the goal is by the end of the year, you will have gotten this third grade content.
I had another question. Is there a way that the students can actually test it out before we have to make a decision, like a sample day, like go in and try the math and try the language arts, etc. And so you get an idea if your kid can adjust to it?
I can ask. I can certainly ask. I think the link that I am thinking of about the Accelerate for families will be extremely helpful, and it may even have something like that already created. I'm just trying to think of the best way to, I'm going to grab that link and throw it in the chat right now, and then I'm going to ask for it to be posted on the web page as well. I wish you were my classroom family so I could just send you an email. And these are things that also, we have a section in every principal's newsletter on Friday, which I know Friday is too late at this point. So I'm going to throw it in the chat right now and figure out how to get it more accessible on the district website. So one moment. And this might just be and in fact, let me share my screen. Just like for Royal Oak Canvas, you couldn't just Google Royal Oak Canvas for logging in. Virtual Academy is the same, and it's actually through the Genesee ISD. And so it's a very specific GenNet Virtual is what it's called, which I'm trying to share my screen here. So I hope you're able to see that. So this is, I will put this link in the chat where I would recommend that's helpful. And you can see everything that we can see right up here through a lot of the, there's so much information in here that it can be completely overwhelming. So I would recommend if you start here with students and families. And this is where it's nice to understand the difference between these two, which I don't think was necessarily understood at the beginning of this. So these would be all the technology questions. This would be the content questions that you're asking. And even to dig down deeper in here, this is curriculum overview, which will give you nitty-gritty curriculum, as much or as little as you want. Like I said, overview down to, I think it even itemizes some individual lessons. This is a very frustrating tab that I have found I wouldn't spend a lot of time here. I've spent a lot of time on this site, so I hopefully can direct you in the right way. Whenever you see content manager, that's all technology type things. And if you've gotten a little comfortable with Canvas through remote, it should be a pretty seamless technology transition anyway. So I would start with this. And there's one other document that I will find. Let me throw this in the chat. Oh, actually, no, I'm sorry. I'll throw this one in the chat and just know up here is where you could dial in. But if you want to see it from other perspectives, that's there as well.
Will our children's current Canvas automatically switch over to the virtual academy if they're enrolled, or how will that work?
Good question. I believe it is completely different. So I don't know if we would archive their current one. But so if you can see my bookmarks here, the Royal Oak Canvas sign-on is where you, I imagine, would go in as a parent or as a student. The VA Canvas looks different, and they actually use this, which was frustrating at first, the single sign-on. You don't use this, so I believe it would be a different account. But it's got the same layout because it is Canvas.
Kara, it looks like for tomorrow, the information session is set for 15 minutes. And just based on today, it seems like we're going to need more time than 15 minutes to ask our questions of the specific teachers. So yes. I'm just
yes, I've already been thinking of that. So I am going to bring that up. And I know one of our teachers teaches at 3:15 or has their class meeting. So tomorrow we may not be able to expand the time, but I will ask about either offering an evening one. And again, if you didn't hear earlier, these were scheduled before we knew about the board meeting and the deadline and the interest that might be, the new interest that might be in a timely manner right now. So I am happy to do another session, do a longer session, get some of these answers and come back and do a session. Mrs. Shannon, our supervisor, is the same. Like whatever families need to make their best decision, whether it's talking with one of us personally, like I said, or the other, we're trying to get together the list of families that have participated. And I specifically said, we're not trying to paint any rosy picture, any more of a rosy picture. It's not a good or bad or right or wrong. I asked for families to paint a realistic picture that have gotten through the bumps and are kind of into it now. We've had some very positive families. We've had some families that were very frustrated at the beginning and perhaps remain frustrated. We'd like to just give everyone a realistic picture of what to expect. The expectations are really important. So you know that you will, whoever your child's learning coach is the main person that will be helping them. You don't have to sit beside them and do lessons, depending on their age and ability. It's not designed that way. But they do need structure from another adult that's not the VA teacher.
And just, okay, thank you. And just with that though, just to verify, the link for the meeting tomorrow at 2:45 is a Google Meet link and there's no password. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And I understand that a teacher
I'm sorry,
might have.
that's for one of them. And the
Can
key.
you please provide those links to us in the chat? I don't know where to find those.
Yes.
Those went out in Principal Dryden's email. I understand that there's a teacher that has to teach at 3:15, but whether these meetings were scheduled before the school board decision or not, these are in the middle of our child's like remote learning day too. So it is a pretty inconvenient time, I'm sure, for most families.
I understand,
So
yes.
I think that we do need more than a half an hour to ask our questions tomorrow. I'm just saying that one more time and then I'll mute myself. Thank you.
Yes, and I understand. And the tricky part of that is we scheduled it in between some teachers' class meetings. So they might not be available at that certain time tomorrow. So I will see what we can do about accommodating a longer time and perhaps more evening time.
Hi, I actually have 2 kids in VA right now, a 2nd and a 4th grader. And I tuned in today just to make sure there were no changes to it, but I'm pretty happy with how it's going so far and would be happy to be available if there are questions that come up that might pertain to a parent's perspective of what's involved here.
Oh, thank you.
So if you want to
Sorry,
put
did
me
you
in the
say-
list of parent advocates or whatever you're calling them, I'd be happy to do that.
I'm sorry, what did you say, what grades?
I have a 2nd and a 4th grader.
Okay. Your teacher will probably, well, if you've told me, I can add your name to the list and an email or phone number. I'll have the teacher connect with you about your preferred contact.
Sure. I'm more familiar with 2nd grade than I am 4th. My husband and I kind of divide and conquer, so I don't know if that matters, but
okay.
I'm happy to help.
Thank you.
Can I circle back to a quick question about the social studies and science that the remote students aren't doing any social studies or science right now?
Correct.
So obviously the virtual kids, I think, are getting some assignments based in those,
Yes, those 2.
So, right.
Yes.
So will that affect us if we switch to virtual from remote then? Will we have any issues with not having experienced the first marking period?
You should not, and especially social studies and science can be pretty standalone in terms of they'll be starting a fresh new module. And although, so they're actually, the VA kids will be a little bit ahead in those 2 content areas because our remote kids do not start those content areas until November 9th. But when you start a fresh module, it would be just like in school if you started a fresh unit, although history, builds on it, but I don't foresee that being a huge issue.
Okay, thanks. But so whatever was in that original module that the VA kids were exposed to, the remote kids just will not be exposed to then?
Correct. Okay, if there's any Zoom experts in here, I believe there's a way for me to capture the chat to share or to make sure all the questions do get thrown on that document.
Kara, I have a question.
Yes.
I hopped on here a little bit late and I am wondering, you are recording the video. Are you able to send this session out for those of us that were slackers and got on a little bit late? So I can hear the beginning of it?
Yes, so we're going to have it posted on the district website just as quickly. In fact, I had a 3:30 meeting I'm incredibly late for, but that's okay. This was a priority. So I'm actually going to hop back to the meeting shortly with the people that will be able to post that, and I will ask them to do it as soon as possible.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Emily, do you have a question or did that get answered? I see a little hand.
That was me. Yeah, thank
okay,
you.
I'm sorry. I need a moderator to help me with not help me, I can do one or the other well, but not both. I saw another hand, Chris. Chris, did your question get answered?
It did. I actually had 3 and all 3 were answered.
Oh,
Thanks.
okay, yes. Okay, thank you for your patience. And my contact information I've added to the presentation that you can access. I will see about getting the links in a more accessible way. And just know that every single person is doing their very best in the VA Academy. I promise you, teachers, families, myself, Mrs. Shannon. And I very much appreciate the people who are able to speak up and speak to some of the actual experiences they've had. So I am going to.
I actually had a quick question.
Yes.
Sorry, or something you can add to your, like, I'm sure pile of things you have to ask other people at this point. About like the social studies and the science, which I thought was horrendous that it wasn't included in the remote, especially given everything going on. Is there a way to potentially make that or those modules for science and social studies available to kids that are coming in now? Just so, I mean, because I know, I mean, in math, things build on each other. So I don't want them to potentially lose lessons that might be built on in the next marking period, you know, and then have that blank of knowledge in those 2 subject areas, since they obviously didn't receive them in the
Yes.
first marking period.
I will ask. I believe the technology exists for past modules to be reshared, but I will certainly ask.
All right, thank you.
Okay, yes. I am going to sign off because I don't want to miss the information happening at my next meeting, which will help me do my job as well. So,
Did you see about saving the chat? In the chat box, there's 3 little dots. If you click on that, it allows you to save the chat. Where your text box is, where it says to everyone, then there's a little icon that says file, and then there's 3 dots. If you click that, it allows you to save the chat.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Kara, thanks so much for your time today.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I will do my best to see what I can do with this information for you. Oh my goodness, that is such a great trick. Okay, I've got the chat saved and captured.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, have a good night.